Welcome back to Sprinkled with Hope and your host, Shane. And today we're going to revisit a topic that we talked about a little bit ago in season one. This is season two. We're going to talk about action and taking that action in life and really just taking a step. We're not asking you to take all these leaps and bounds right now, but Jason and I feel really strongly that if we each take a simple, small step every day, that will be so much better. So I wanted to start off a quote. I know that's probably shocking to some of our listeners, but this one I like on multiple levels, and I'll share it with you and then let you know what I think about it. It comes from Clement Stone, and he was a businessman and an author. And he says, "Thinking will not overcome fear, but action will."
Mm.
And the reason I like that on a few layers is because one, we all think about things, which is natural, but thinking will not allow us to overcome fear. And the second reason I like this is because we all are going to have fear. In life, we're going to fear something, or we just are. That's natural and that's okay. But simply thinking about those things that we fear are not going to allow us to overcome them. What will allow us to overcome them is taking that small, simple step today. You don't have to start running towards your goals. You don't have to start running towards anything. You just have to take a step. You have to be in motion. And that action or that motion will allow us to overcome the fear. So I wanted to start with that and just give you a little insight to why I like that quote. I honestly believe that if we just take one step, we're going to be further than we were yesterday.
It's so true. I will absolutely echo that. And shockingly, I'm going to start with a quote as well. I know, total surprise, right? So there's an Irish proverb, and it says this: "You'll never plow a field by turning it over in your mind." And again, I think that goes back to, you can't just think of something, right? You can't just say, "Oh yeah, I want to go plow that field," and boom, it's done. Or I want to go and get these things accomplished today. You can't just think about it. You actually have to go out and plow the field. You have to sow
Yeah.
the seeds, right? You have to put those things in order. So I'm going to take a little bit different approach on action this time. So hopefully I don't lose you as I'm talking, but Dr. Joe Dispenza said that thoughts are the language of the mind and feelings are the language of the body. So I want you to think about that just for a second. The thoughts that you have are the language, or the what your mind is speaking, and your feelings are what your body is feeling, what's going on in your body. So your brain is like a control tower. Those that know me know that I've flown helicopters for a long time. So I want you to think about this analogy. Your brain is like the control tower, and your body just follows the commands. It tells it when to come in and what to do. So when it comes to action, what are your thoughts that are telling our body what to do? What are those things that your thoughts are telling your body to continue to move? Is it telling you to get up in the morning? Like, what is it telling you to do? This is why meditation is so good. I think that oftentimes we think, okay, I just want to relax, right? Uh, But do we really ever think about relaxing our mind? Meditation is the relaxation of our mind. So why do we relax our body but we don't relax our mind? I just want to start off with that, and kind of get your mind thinking just a little bit about this.
That's great. I was going to just share a personal experience about taking action, and it kind of goes back with fear, and which we all have, which is natural, and that's okay. But in order to overcome that fear, I believe we have to take action. So years ago, um, I had gone through a divorce, and there were some things in that process that I thought, this just doesn't seem right, and I could have easily sat on my hands and not done anything, and maybe I still would have turned out the way that I am today. But I I wanted to learn more about the process that I had just gone through. And so rather than sitting there, I signed up to take classes at the university and become certified as a mediator, because there were just some questions I had in my mind. So I took that action, and I gained knowledge by taking the action that I did. And in turn, that that mediation that I went through, I was able to help other people, go through some people go through divorce, which is unfortunate, but I was able to turn my action into helping other people, by simply doing something. Now, I didn't expect that to happen, but it happened. And so I just wanted to share that with you. The last time we talked about action, I brought up fears. And again, that's a natural thing to have fear. But I also brought up that if we understand the reason why we have fears, we're going to be able to overcome those a lot better. Now, sometimes we might not understand why we have them. Sometimes we might be afraid of heights, but why are we really afraid of heights? I think we might be afraid of falling versus the height itself. So if you understand those fears and how to overcome them, I think we're going to be so much better. Again, like I had mentioned in my what I had just shared with you personally, I just encourage each of us to take one step, to take a step and do something today that will help us get to where we need to go.
I love the personal experience there, and I'm going to share one here in just a little bit. But and you might be wondering why I started out action talking about the mind and whatnot, but that's why I said kind of follow along with me just a little bit. Hopefully it'll make sense. Um, but so hopefully everybody understands what dopamine is in our body and what it does. It's in the brain, and so when you there's different ways to get and raise that dopamine level within yourself. One is exercise. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. This is why oftentimes I've had a problem with eating certain foods, right? Like, because when you eat like a cake, a piece of cake or a donut, or you have ice cream or whatever, that raises your dopamine level. And so, um, here's an interesting fact, and hopefully you'll understand where I'm going with all of this in just a little bit. But here's an interesting fact: at night, our dopamine levels drop dramatically through the night as we're sleeping, because we're not doing anything. We're not cycling our brain like we are in the day. So in the morning, typically we wake up, and what's the first thing and I'll tell you my personal experience is that I wake up and I used to grab my phone right away.
Mm-hmm.
And why do we do that? And the reason is because our dopamine level has dropped dramatically through the night. And when we look at social media, it gives us that dopamine hit. It provides dopamine in the brain, and thus we feel good. And so it'll all tie together with action, and that's what this is all about, right? Is we're going to take action, but I think we need to understand the mind. We need to understand dopamine and what it does for us, to then understand why we do take action on some things and why we don't take action on other things. So that's my personal experience, and I'm going to share another one here in a while. But when I get up, that was the problem I had. I got up in the morning, looked at my cell phone to get that dopamine bump. So now I've really tried to limit the first 15 minutes of my morning phone free. I get up, I think about whatever it is, my day, I think about those things instead of going to my phone. That is because I was seeking after that dopamine hit right into my brain, and I wanted that. And so, um, you know, and I think that we've talked about this before, but the general consensus is that our bodies run on about 95 to 98% habit. That's a huge percentage.
Yeah.
So how do we take action and break some of those habits and continue to move forward? And I think that's what Shane and I are going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think that's great that you do bring up the mind in this, because often our fears or our minds is the thing that it prevents us from taking that action. We've talked a lot about the mind and that it's a powerful thing and we can use it to our benefit, or it can hinder us to where we need to go. So I'm glad that you talked about that. I was thinking that it really is true that, um, let's say when I wake up, if, if my first instinct is to get on social media, I think I have a problem. So I hope that we're conscious about what we're first thinking about when we wake up. When you were talking about that I was thinking about that and thinking, maybe I need to be more conscious about what I'm thinking about first thing in the morning. And maybe that will allow me to start my day better by taking that action or not taking the action of picking up my phone and
Sure.
looking at it.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. I, I want to go back a little bit to fears, because, again, I think we all have them and I think they're natural, but we really have to understand them. And I think maybe tying into the mind that what you were talking about, it really does go with fear. In our mind, we're thinking, gosh, this
Totally.
fear is bigger than we think it is. Like,
Yeah.
it just is. And I really believe if we start to understand those fears, it might be the fear of failure, or that people might not accept us the way that we think we are. Um, I just think we have to understand those better, and they'll allow us to take the action that we need to. I have another quote by Mel Robbins. She's a TV host and a motivational speaker. I love following her. She says a lot of great, fantastic things, and she says, "Your doubts create mountains. Your actions move them." And
Mm,
again,
that's
I
awesome.
I love that, because I like to think about things on different layers, and I just love how she says it, because we're going to have fears, we're going to have doubts.
Sure.
We just do. That's a natural thing. And our doubts are creating mountains, and we think, oh my gosh, they're so much bigger than we can overcome. But taking the action is going to move the mountain. It's not saying remove the mountain, it's just saying that our action is going to move them wherever we can. And I truly, honestly believe that. I think, again, we don't have to be running towards our
Yeah.
goals, and we don't have to be going crazy. We just have to be moving forward. And that can be a simple, small step.
Yeah. I love that. And that is an excellent quote. I'm glad you shared that. And Mel Robbins is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I love following that and just that particular social media. But here's another quote for you. Peter Marshall, an American game show host, said, "Small deeds done are better than great deeds planned." And I think that comes down to the action, right? Like if we actually do a small step, it's better than like creating this grand plan, right? That, oh, I want to, you know, make $1 million, and you're not even quite close to that, right?
Yep.
So I think, starting with the baby steps, like Shane was saying, like that's a great tool. The Hebbian law states neurons that fire together wire together, and that this has been talked about for many, many, many years. But I want to kind of bring that into context a little bit. This is why when we are not taking action in our life, we tend to associate things together, like boredom and food, right? You get bored, and so you go and eat some food. And so that's because you're firing those two things together. They're you're now in your brain, they're going to connect. And so that's oftentimes why you say, "Oh, I want to work out." But the laziness kicks in, or those things that you've already wired together tell you otherwise. And so when we take action, we start the process of rewiring those neurons, and that's why it's really difficult. That's why they say it takes 21 days to create a habit, right? I think some new stuff is saying more like 30. but that's the key, is the small steps. Will Rogers, an American actor, said, even if you are on the right track, you'll get run over if you sit there. So,
Yeah.
so
So
it's moving, right?
yeah.
It's moving.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to the mind just a little bit. Think about the subconscious and the conscious mind. And I've talked about this. I brought it up. Shane's brought it up. The subconscious is like a garden with soil. The conscious is like the gardener who plants the seeds. Now, your subconscious, based on what you told it to do, will either grow flowers or it'll grow weeds. It is like a huge storage facility that keeps you on even keel. That's what really why your body temperature stays the exact same all the time, is because your subconscious is telling it to do so. So anytime we go outside of our program, the program that our mind is telling us, our body says, no, 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 no. I don't want to do that. I want to go back to normal. I want to go back to even keel, because that's what the subconscious wants to do. It wants to keep running this program all the time, never changing. And so that's why it's so hard to change a habit. So if you start with something small and you push through that feeling that your subconscious is telling you, I don't want to do that. Nope, turn around, go the other way. I want to go back to even keel. You're going to then tell your subconscious, no, it's okay. We are good. I'm still alive. I don't have to fear anything. We're okay.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was thinking that we probably all have something that we've wanted to do in life, but for whatever reason, things are holding us back to do that. I want you to think about your thing. Your thing might be that you want to exercise more or you want to travel. Think about what you want to do, one thing you've wanted to do in life. And I challenge each of us to do one simple thing. So if your thing is you want to exercise more, I challenge you to exercise for 10 seconds today. That's it. Take one small step to whatever you wanted to do in life. And I promise if you start moving by taking action, that you will get to that place where you want to be.
I love that, that challenge. And I think it kind of goes back to our 1 minute thing, our 1 minute rule that we were talking about, which
Yes.
is, if you can do the dishes in 1 minute, then that's it. Stop after 1 minute and be done.
Yep.
Don't say, oh, I'm going to finish whatever's in the dishes, or I got to finish the set. No, do 1 minute, done. Move on to something else. And so I want to share kind of a personal experience. I haven't shared this yet, but for those that know me, and for those that don't know me, I've been a helicopter pilot for a long time. I went to school back in 2006. Yeah, 2006 is when I graduated flight school to become a helicopter pilot. And so here's where the taking action comes for me. I did take action to go to flight school, but I also did the reverse action just a little while ago. Um, I I took action in that I decided that the helicopter industry was no longer serving me and my family. It was no longer helping me with the goals that I had in mind. They weren't aligning well. And so I decided to hang that hat up. Hope I don't know, maybe for good. We'll see what happens. But I'm not going to go back to the commercial helicopter business. It's just not for me. But I took that action. I made that decision to decide not to do it anymore, and I'm done. And
I,
so,
I love that you shared that. I might have interrupted, but I
no,
just
you're good.
wanted to say I love that you shared that, because what we're talking about is taking action. And in that case, when you're in something that you love, which is flying helicopters, the decision to choose to walk away from that has to be hard and difficult. But you took action. You said, you know what? I went to school. I've been flying helicopters for a while, but this is not, you said it brilliantly, which is it's not serving me and my family the way that I thought it would. And so I have to walk away. The action sometimes isn't easy, but you have to take action. And so you took the action and walked away. And I'm really glad and happy that you shared that with us.
Yeah, and I wanted to find an opportunity to share it because it's been something that's been a huge part of my life recently.
Yeah.
I mean, when COVID hit, I was furloughed, and so this was like the third time I've been changed a different job in the helicopter industry, and so I decided right then, yep, I'm done. I'm walking away from this. It's no longer serving me and my family. I'm going to hang that hat. And I tell you, it was the best decision I've made. And they actually called me back and offered me to go back to there after I had been furloughed for a little while. And I told them no because I had already made up the decision. I had taken action to do other things in my life, and flying helicopters is just not one of them right now. I've got so many other things that I want to accomplish in my life, and I did accomplish that. It was a huge goal of mine that I wanted, I had since I was a young child to fly helicopters, and I did it. I did that. Like I took action to do that specific thing, but then I also took action to walk away from it. And it was difficult, Shane. It was really hard for me to say, yeah, I'm done, because it was, there was blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
That going through flight school and just all of the different industries, has been difficult. And so that's what I want to close with is take action to move forward, but also take action to decide if something isn't serving you, to just get rid of it in your life. And thinking back about the mind and what is serving you and what doesn't serve you, I want you to think of things that give you that dopamine without having to go to other sources. Find different ways to increase that level in your life. And really one of those is love, right? When you are in love or feel love for others, that increases your dopamine level. It actually opens your arteries up in your body, and blood starts to flow more. When I have love for Shane or for my wife or for my kids, that increases your dopamine level. So I really want you to focus on other things that increase that, and don't try to create an excuse not to do something because your body is telling you not to. Know that I think it's important to know what your body's telling you and why. That's why I brought up the subconscious and the conscious mind and what happens. I also, talked about the mind a little bit and how it works, because I think it's important. If you understand that, then you realize why you maybe go after that ice cream every night, or why we are seeking after these things that don't serve us.